Very good morning to you. If you're just joining us, let's bring you this story. The Public Enterprises Department says that it's working around the clock to finalise the implementation of SAA's business rescue plan. This after all the conditions for the plan have been met, and they were met last week, the department says. Now, last month, the majority of SAA's creditors voted in favour of a 2.2 billion rand plan. For more on this, we are joined by the department's acting Deputy Director General, Nonny Mashika, and she speaks to us from Benoni. DDG, thank you very much for your time. So, in your statement that you released, I think it was on Wednesday, you say that for the process to complete, there are 4 crucial elements that need to be implemented. Key among them is the contentious retrenchment process. Where are you in that regard?
Good morning, Koli, and good morning to your listeners. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Yes, indeed. Of course, we're now during the phase of the implementation of the business rescue plan. It is, of course, the transition phase. In terms of the labor restructuring, it's important to note that, of course, we've had to look at how we can retain some of the employees at the entity. We've considered the retention of about 1,000 employees at the entity. And we've been in engagements with other government departments, such as the Department of Labor, to see how we can actually put together the social plan, which considers another 1,000 employees, which can be allocated into a training and layoff scheme that will assist in making sure that those employees are covered from a social perspective.
What about the unions, though, DDG? Are they on board?
Of course, the unions had to be on board. This was part and parcel of the business rescue plan to make sure that as we finalize the rescue plan going forward, we take into account the labor issues. And in this regard, labor has been on board with regards to the VSP process, which is the voluntary severance packages that have been issued at the airline. And of course, taking into account as well the amount of the labor that will be going on to a training and layoff scheme.
Also very important, looking at that statement that you issued, you say you've identified a transaction advisor. Is this a new role, and what will the mandate of this person or persons be?
Yeah, Koli, what's been quite critical is, of course, from a funding perspective, it's been quite key to make sure that we identify a transaction advisor that would come in and assist in making sure that they look at the raising of the funding for the airline, for the new airline, and of course the restructuring requirements from a cost perspective, but also looking at the investment that may be required at the airline in the form of strategic equity partnerships. And of course, SAA does require some form of funding to implement the business rescue plan. Therefore, the transaction advisor will be coming in to assist government in making sure that we identify suitable partners, and we also identify the right kind of funding to take the airline going forward.
And where are you in identifying that equity partner?
Yeah, so we have received various expressions of interest. There's been quite a lot of interest in SAA, and of course, the airline does have a very strong brand. So there have been a number of businesses and also partners that have expressed interest in the airline.
Are they local or international?
Pardon me?
Are they local or international investors?
They're both, local and international. And we are in the process of course, through the transaction advisor, of reviewing those expressions of interest.
Yeah, all right. That's very interesting indeed. At the end of this process, DDG, what South Africans, I would think, want at the end of it all is an airline that is self-sufficient, that is not going to rely on bailouts when it hits the skids. What will it take to realize this as a department?
Yeah, I think that's a critical element, Koli, because of course, in undergoing this entire transformation of SAA, one of the critical things that we've noted is, of course, the need to wean off the airline from government funding. And that will obviously depend on, number one, the board that will be appointed to make sure that it takes the vision and the mission going forward, to make sure that we have a sustainable airline going forward. They will then also appoint an effective management team to make sure that the strategy is executed to the T. And third of all is to also make sure that we address the fundamentals within the airline. Therefore, the total overhaul of that business is required to make sure that we have a sustainable airline going forward, one that is customer-centric, agile, and is able to make sure that it's a center of excellence within the aviation industry in the country, and is able to provide some level of connectivity to ensure that there's economic activity within the country as we look at resuscitating the economy going forward.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. The Acting Deputy Director General at the Department of Public Enterprises, Nonny Mashika.